Hey everyone, in this video I'm just going to show you how my faction did in war and then show also some gameplay against Days After Rodeo because I caught a couple matches. They weren't very long matches. My camp ended up being blown up fairly quickly. Days After Rodeo is the faction that actually won the Blitz war, so congratulations to all of them. My faction came in third, so I'm pretty happy with that. I was able to get my milestones, and by coming in third, that gave me 55 openings on this war stash. And what's nice about the total war stash is that once you complete it, it'll actually reset so you can get prizes all over again. And I like that it's a nice combination of trainers, it's a nice combination of gear, it's some food, and then for every 5 opens, you can choose between 25 rotten heads or 100 war tokens. So it's pretty nice that way because it means you can keep doing it again and again and again and again. And based on the tiering, so the ranking, as long as you participate in every single war, you will be able to open the stash completely at least once. If you get milestones every time, I believe that'll increase to opening the whole stash twice over the 6 weeks. And now we're going to move on to some gameplay from war. I'm not saying I hit great against Days After Rodeo. They had some very strong teams. I think this is the type of team that tricks me up the most when there's a Rick and a Jackie, because if it's set up with the 20% AP weapon to self on Jackie, it becomes very difficult because she can rush on the first turn and apply that minus 60% attack to my attack team. So the attack team that I've been running against Jackie teams most of the time has been Priya, Princess, Dr. Stevens, Kate, and Maggie as a commander. And the reasoning for this combination is because if there's a traitor, Kate works really well at countering him because when she rushes, she gives 30% healing over, I think it's 2 turns. So that completely recovers my team from any infection. So that's 15% or 25% from traitor. She also focuses my team, so even if traitor rushes, I'm focused. In this case, I wasn't able to focus myself in time, but the focus can be really useful because I can use attack up when taunted as an example to boost my attack while not being affected by taunt if I'm focused. Now, this defensive team is pretty tanky and pretty difficult because we see Tanya's being utilized here. And what Tanya is great for is her constant reviving, constant healing, her recovering of all penalties. It's just a really difficult team to end up fighting. So I ended up failing against that team. This defensive team is a bit more standard and kind of what we're used to seeing. I was a little unlucky in my first attack where my Priya ended up getting stunned. Now, between Mercer or Pete with attacking, because Pete's weapon is a better chance to stun, that means 35% chance but Mercer has a great chance, which is about 50%. So being aware of what weapons actually mean can be really helpful when deciding who you should attack and also remembering what mods your tunes have. So my Priya actually has a pretty high stun resist mod, which is why I felt confident attacking with her first. Now, unfortunately, that didn't play out properly, or as I expected, but that's RNG for you, and you can really only do as much as you can, which of course makes sense. So I ended up fleeing this match because Princess is about to rush, and I have no way to really stop that. Sometimes it's just unfortunate how everything plays out, and there's only so much you can do. So whenever I have Dr. Stevens and Maggie available on the first turn, I have a decent shot at actually controlling the enemy's team, and it's all about deciding who I need to control. It's sometimes difficult to gauge who the important character is to control, but I would definitely say normalizing Bide Rosita, normalizing the command tune Rick, because if Rick is normalized, it means he can't command anyone else, so it's easier to predict what the enemy is going or able to do. One of the most difficult things to deal with in this game is RNG, so any chance you have at controlling that gives you a huge advantage. The reason why I rushed Rick and not Traitor and Rosita is because Rick has an active skill which can revive a teammate. So I found that to be more dangerous than Traitor or Rosita. Now, here I got unlucky where Traitor was able to resist my princess's taunt, but I was still able to rush my Dr. Stevens, which helps. I'm able to use an attack up and healing with my Kate. I tried to rush my princess. It doesn't do enough damage, so I'm going to flee this match. It's just not worth my time. I need to move on. And that's something that people need to realize when they go about attacking, that sometimes if a match is going to take too long, you have a better chance at moving on to the next target and trying to score more points there. What makes a good attacker is not just sticking with a match and trying to win at all costs or for however long it takes, but it's knowing when the right move is to flee as well, because you're not always going to be successful. You can try as much as you want, but you're always going to fall short against some teams at some point. And being able to let a match go and move on is sometimes the best move you can make for your team and for yourself. Like, I honestly do not consider myself to be a good attacker. I would like to say I'm a smart attacker, and I've tried to create my teams to be synergetic enough to apply damage where needed and to give myself the best chance at possibly winning a match. Does it always work? No. I fall short sometimes, and it happens. You kind of just have to live, learn, move on, and grow from it. So here's another match against Days After Rodeo. As you saw in that last match, I ended up fleeing, and right after that, I was destroyed. Like, my defensive team is not great. It's okay, but being a free-to-play player, I can only do so much. Now, this was the case that I mentioned, where Jackie rushed on the first turn, and I have this minus 60% attack on all my tunes. So now my job is to kind of control the enemy for a few turns and try to keep my team in a good position that once the minus 60% attack is over, I'm able to apply some massive damage to the enemy. The minus 60% attack is really devastating for an attack team because it really slows down any teams that primarily focus on damage, which is what my team does. A lot of people who run Infection with 100% heal reduction, for example, wouldn't be affected by their attack being decreased, so that's a little bit different. I do wish that I had another method of attacking some of these tanky teams. By being able to run an Infection team, I think I could be more effective against some teams. Not all teams, but some. As you can see, this match took much longer than what I would like, but I know against a team like Days After Rodeo, I have to score where I can. So it's kind of that balance of knowing how much time I can actually spend on a team, where I'm going to score points, and if it's a lost cause or not, because some matches are. I am fully aware that by being a free-to-play player, I have a lot more limitations than other players do who do spend. So I just have to be aware of my time, aware of all my resources, aware of where my strengths and my weaknesses lie. And frankly, I always like attacking teams that I think are beyond me. It helps me kind of learn, because you learn by doing. At least that's how I learn. And when you actually watch how a defensive team acts, you can kind of see some of the patterns. You can understand what you need to do to increase your chance at winning. And sometimes it's not very easy to identify. Like, being able to normalize a command tune is huge. Being able to normalize someone like Tanya, who has Outlast and is a really good reviving tune, is imperative. With certain tunes, like Traitor, for example, if you have a focus tune, it's okay to let him rush, because he's going to be providing you an attack bonus if you run attack up when taunted, which is what I actually run on my princess. Now, as most of you know, I run attack up when impaired on my Priya, which doesn't work against teams like these, but it works pretty effectively against other defensive teams that have blue characters on defense. And there's still a good mix of those characters, which is why I still have this specific combination on my Priya. I imagine that in the future, I will probably have to adjust this mod pretty quickly, to be honest, because things are constantly changing in this game, and you have to be willing, ready, and quick to change with them. Sometimes in a match, you'll come across a kind of unique team like this, where you have a payback tune, being Shiva, you have a damage dealing tune, a Rav, you have Jackie, who creates that RNG to start, Traitor, tanky tune, Rick for control but also fast rushing, and sometimes the match is over on the first turn, and there's nothing you can do about it, which I think might be one of the hardest things. Like, you could have the exact right team to counter the defensive team, but sometimes RNG just doesn't work out for you. When I'm in a match, it's difficult for me to always explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. A lot of it comes from feeling, a lot of it comes from repetition, and a lot of it just comes from educated guessing. Because I make myself very aware of what a defensive team, like what their kits are, and I will assume in most cases that they're maxed out, unless it's an obvious character like Frost. No one really levels up his active skill. Same with Mercer, and if Mercer does use his active skill on the first turn, it just kind of gives me some extra time and space to make an educated move. So if you understand what the meta is, especially on a defensive team, it'll kind of help you plan out your attack and seeing where the weaknesses are in the defensive team and how you can exploit them. I think that's a big focus for me on a lot of the videos that I do, where I show how a defensive team's advantage can actually be turned into a disadvantage pretty easily. I would say the most recent examples are the attack up when taunted and attack up when impaired, especially with my gentleman video where I showcased him doing about 93 million damage on a basic attack. Now, for as much as I do know, there's a lot that I also don't know. So feel free to approach me with questions and comments. I would love to learn more, and I'm always willing to hear people out in order to learn more. We learn by asking questions. So feel free to ask me questions because you learning is also me learning. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content and information.